and it's great to have you here with us. So, what do we mean by everyday digital? Well, it's the small incremental things that you can do to make overall improvements to the user experience on your website. This series of webinars will help you to understand why each topic is important to you, whether that's accessibility, security, data protection, sustainability, and more. We'll share actionable tips, resource lists, and give you the opportunity to ask questions of the experts. Look out for invitations to the next sessions on website security and website sustainability, which are coming soon. This presentation today will be focused on accessibility for websites. A little bit about who we are. Studio 24 is a web development agency based in Cambridge. We have over 26 years of experience working on the web, with particular expertise in building accessible websites and web apps, and we advocate for accessibility with our clients and in the industry. We work with a wide range of organisations, including the arts, education, charity, and public sectors. The presentation today will be focused on accessibility for websites. As I said earlier, we will be recording this session so that we can share the recording with you and for those who are unable to attend. So please take a moment to check that you're on mute. The presentation will be approximately 15 to 20 minutes and we'll then have some time for Q&A at the end. Please put your questions in the chat and we'll try to get through as many as we can. If we run out of time, we will email you with a response after the session to ensure that every question receives an answer. In this webinar, we're going to cover the most common accessibility mistakes, how to find out if they're present on your website, and whether you need a website developer to fix them or if you can resolve the issue yourself. We're also going to mention some tools that you might find helpful while you're editing your website content, and we'll talk a little bit about accessibility overlays, which some of you may have heard about. Some of you may already be familiar with WebAIM. They are a US-based non-profit group that advocates for web accessibility. For the past 6 years, they have evaluated the accessibility of the home pages of the top 1 million websites. Over 96% consistently fail on the following 6 categories: low contrast, images missing alternative text, empty links, empty buttons, form inputs missing labels, and missing document language. We'll go through each of these categories as part of this presentation to explain what they mean, why they're important issues to resolve, and how to go about fixing them. We're also going to show you a tool that can help you spot these issues. Depending on how your website is set up and managed, you may be able to fix some of these issues yourself, or you may need some technical support from a developer. If everybody were to address just these 6 types of issues, it would significantly improve accessibility for people across the web. While there are a number of online tools that can be used to identify accessibility issues, a good all-rounder that we recommend is WebAIM's Web Accessibility Evaluation Tool, also known as WAVE. This should help you spot the most common issues just mentioned. You can visit the WAVE website and copy and paste a web page address into the online evaluation tool, or if you're a little more confident with technology, you can install WAVE as a browser extension in Chrome, Firefox, and Edge. But the online tool from the WAVE website is a good place to start. To help demonstrate how the WAVE tool works, we're using the American charity website, Friends of Animals, as an example. So when you input the web address of the site into WAVE, the first thing that happens is a panel will open on the left of the screen, providing a summary of the things it has found. And you'll notice that there are a few icons that have popped up on the website as well. This is to indicate where the issues are located. We can see that WAVE has found 65 errors, 4 contrast errors, and 25 alerts. These are the issues that we're going to focus on in this demonstration. Now, before we dive into WAVE's findings, let's just recap on those 6 most common website accessibility tools: low contrast text, images missing alternative text, empty links, empty buttons, form inputs missing labels, and missing document language. Let's take a look at each of these in turn, starting with low contrast text. So if we look at that panel on the left-hand side of the screen, we were previously looking at the Summary tab. If you select the Details tab next to it, it will show you all the errors in a bit more detail. You can see in this example that there are 4 contrast errors, and it shows 4 red icons beneath. If you were to click on one of these icons, it will then highlight the location of the contrast error on the web page. In this example, you can see that it has highlighted an error in the top right of the home page. The Wave tool is showing us that this orange link for joining our email list has low contrast. This means that the orange text colour is too light against the white background. If the colour of the text does not contrast enough with the background colour, people with low vision will struggle to read it. The Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, sometimes referred to as WCAG, recommend that the colour contrast ratio for text content is at least 4.5 to 1. The Wave tool shows that in this example, the contrast ratio is 2.05 to 1, which is well below the recommended minimum. Here's an example of another useful tool and will be handy for dealing with this specific issue. The WebAIM Contrast Checker is an online tool that you can use to check the colour contrast of your colour contrast ratio of your content. To use the tool, you'll want to open this website in a separate window and then select the colour picker, which will open up the pipette tool. If you click on the pipette icon, you can then hover over and click on the text on your website to find out the hex value, essentially the colour code. Do the same for the background colour, and this will then tell you the colour contrast ratio of your content. If it's lower than 4.5 to 1, you can use the contrast checker tool to find different shades that meet the guideline requirements. It's a fun tool to play around with once you get the hang of it. The same text contrast rules apply if you have text on top of a background image. The contrast can vary depending on which part of the background the image and the text overlaps with. You can check out Studio 24's Guide to Accessible Content for a tool specifically built for checking the contrast of text used on top of background images. The image in this slide shows the tool in action. The percentages at the top of the screen indicate whether the text on the image passes or fails, depending on which level of accessibility standard you're trying to achieve, such as AA or AAA. With low contrast text, unless you are able to directly modify colours while editing your site, you may have to raise any contrast issues that you find with your developer. But by using the WebAIM Contrast Checker tool and Wave, it'll make it a lot easier for you to explain to the developer what changes are needed. Next, we're going to look at alternative text errors. We're going back to the Wave tool and the panel on the left-hand side, still looking at the Details tab, but now we're looking at the 65 errors that have been flagged. Quite a lot of these errors are images with missing alternative text. In the example shown, we've selected one of the errors from the list and it has highlighted the image with the error, indicating that alternative text is not present. Alternative text, as some of you may already be familiar with, is all about providing an equivalent experience for people who cannot see images. When using a screen reader, a visitor to your website will rely on alternative text to acquire the same context that a sighted user will get from looking at the image. For anyone who has used HTML and knows how to check this on a website, it is possible to check the HTML code for the site and see, in this example, that there is no alt tag present. The alt tag, in HTML terms, is essentially the container for the alternative text in the code. If there is no alt tag, then there can't be any alternative text present. This can get a little technical, but if you have a web developer to help you with your website, then they will be able to assist you with this. Studio 24's online guide to accessible content includes a whole section related to images and alternative text. To give you a summary of our top tips in the guide, here are some useful things to note. Every image must include an alt tag in the HTML code. If you find an image that does not have an alt tag, or if you're not sure how to check this, you will probably need to raise this with your developer. If an image is being used as a link to other content, the alt tag should contain some alternative text that lets people know what will happen when they interact with the link. In this instance, you don't describe the image itself, but instead what the expected outcome will be if someone interacts with it. If an image is used to provide additional meaning to the text on the web page, the alt tag should contain some alternative text to describe what is visible in the image. If an image is purely decorative and completely irrelevant to the page content, the alt tag should be left empty, but you should still include the tag to show that it has been reviewed and determined that the alternative text is not required. Going back to the Wave tool, we've had some alerts related to alternative text, where there is alternative text present, but it could probably be improved. As indicated in our example, the Friends of Animals logo in the header is used as a link to the homepage. The alternative text for this image is currently logo. A better alternative text for this image would be Friends of Animals homepage, because that is where people will be taken if they follow the link. If you'd like some tips on writing alternative text, we've included some guidance in our accessible content guide too. Now we're going to look at empty links and buttons. If we go back to our panel of errors found in Wave, it found some empty links on this page. What that means is that there is a link on the page, but no text associated with the link in the code. Most of the errors in this example website relate to social media links in the footer of the website. And when we check the HTML code, it reveals that there is no text present in any of these links, just an icon. People using a screen reader or keyboard to navigate the website may find these links confusing because there is no text to tell them where the link will go if they interact with it. This is something that you would probably need to raise with your developer. Empty buttons are basically the same. They are missing any text to let people know what the purpose of the button is. The difference is that links take you to a different place, whereas buttons trigger an action of some sort, such as opening a pop-up window. The Wave tool will help you find empty buttons as well. So far, we've covered 4 of the top 6 accessibility issues: colour contrast, alternative text, empty links, and empty buttons. Now it's time to explain what form inputs missing labels means. Going back to our example website, let's take a look at their donation form using Wave to help explain what it means by form inputs missing labels. You can see from the screenshot that there are quite a few errors marked on the screen, and many relate to missing form labels. The form does include visible text above each field on the form to tell the person filling in the form what to enter into each field. However, this text is not correctly linked up with each field in the HTML code. So the Wave tool is flagging that the fields appear to be missing labels. This disconnect makes it much harder for a person using a screen reader to fill in this form because it would be unclear what they need to fill in to each field. This is an issue that would need to be raised with the website developer to fix. And the last issue on the list, missing document language. We can also use the donation form to demonstrate the last item from our list of common accessibility issues. Wave has spotted that this web page has an error with the document language either being missed or invalid. The reason this is a problem is because if the web browser doesn't know what language the web page is written in, it cannot provide a reliable automatic translation of the text content. A missing or invalid document language also impacts the use of the correct language model for screen readers. As with many of the issues raised in the example shown, this is likely to require developer input to resolve. You may be starting to feel a little like most accessibilities issues are locked up in website design and development, that they mainly have to be resolved by someone with technical skills, and that there's limited scope for you to make any accessibility improvements yourself. In fact, there's still plenty of things that you can do to make things better for people while you're managing your page content. We've already talked about checking that your images have good alternative text. Here are some other quick tips. Headings are the primary way in which people using screen readers navigate page content. So making sure they are correctly implemented is important. Use a single level 1 heading per page. This is usually the main page title. Don't just use big, bold paragraph text for your headings. Use the toolbar in your content editor to format headings properly. It's not just about making the text look right, it's giving it the correct hierarchy in the code too, so that it makes sense for screen reader users. These formatting tools should be available to you in a content management system, but speak with your web developers if they're not. And don't skip heading levels. For example, don't jump from a heading 2 to a heading 4, as it can confuse people using screen readers. Screen reader users can quickly access a helpful list of all the links on a web page. But this feature is considerably less helpful if every link on the page says, click here or read more. Be descriptive with your link text. Let people know straight away what to expect when they follow a link. In the example shown from the Friends of Animals website, we can see that they have a lot of links that say, learn more. As an alternative, they should change the text of each link to confirm where it will take you. For example, sign up to our newsletter or read about our wildlife law programme. Rich media, like video and podcast content, can help you gain new audiences and build engagement. Making sure that it's accessible will help you reach the widest group of people possible. The W3C Web Accessibility Initiative has an entire section about making audio and video content accessible. We recommend visiting their resources before you begin creating audiovisual media. It's always easier to consider accessibility from the beginning rather than trying to resolve issues later on, and their planning tips will help you save time and money. A few recommendations to ensure this type of content is accessible. Offer captions for videos and transcripts for podcasts. Don't rely on automatically generated captions. Make sure you review and edit them for accuracy. And captions can form a helpful starting point for writing a full transcript, which is good to offer alongside videos as well. I'd like to mention a couple more tools which are aimed specifically at content editors and could help you while you're managing your content. Sally is a website plugin, and having this installed in your website will allow you to visually highlight content issues, along with a simple tooltip on how to fix them. There are plugins available for WordPress and Joomla, but there is also a bookmarklet that can be used in any desktop browser if you feel confident enough to set this up. Just a quick note on the spelling of Sally. The word accessibility is dreadfully long and easy to misspell when typing, so it's sometimes abbreviated to ALLY. The word accessibility starts with an A, ends in a Y, and has 11 letters in between. So if you ever see the word ALLY with 2 1s instead of 2 L's, you now know what it means. Editorially does the same kind of thing as Sally, but it shows results inline and automatically rather than requiring extra button presses. There are plugins for WordPress, Drupal, and Squarespace for anyone that may be using these content management systems. You may want to have a chat with your website developer about how to go about installing and using these tools. We also want to give you a cautionary note about succumbing to the temptation of using an accessibility overlay. If you are ever offered a tool that promises to solve all your accessibility issues by adding a single line of code, please think twice before deciding to use one on your website, as the simple solution is often too good to be true. Such accessibility overlays often cause more problems for people than they claim to solve. And crucially, they don't make a website compliant with accessibility legislation. All they do is cover up the issues that are present rather than fixing the issues and making the site better for everyone. You can find more information on this topic on the Studio 24 blog and on the Overlay Fact Sheet website. We wanted to give an example of a website that on first glance looks fine, but is missing some of the key things that we've gone over in this session today. We've mocked up this homepage of an imagined charity, and whilst it may seem visually pleasing, there are some areas which could be improved to make the content more accessible. Let's take a closer look at the top part of the page. If we look in the top right corner, you'll see that the site menu is hidden and the user would need to click on the 3 horizontal lines to access the rest of the website navigation. It's common to hide key navigation links within an off-canvas menu on mobile-sized devices, so it can be tempting to do this on wider screens too for a clean aesthetic. But this is problematic for your users. You're making them work harder to find your content and get them to where they need to be. Full-width images, like the one used in the header, can provide impact, but can also cause issues with text readability. Here, the colour contrast of the text against the background image isn't good enough to meet accessibility standards. The organisation's logo is arguably getting lost as well. And full uppercase sentences may be part of the organisation's branding and therefore unavoidable, but it's worth being aware that they are harder to read for users. Keep uppercase sentences to headings only if you are going to use them. So here is that same website header, but with some accessibility improvements. By showing the full navigation on a plain background colour, it gives more prominence to the company logo and makes it much easier for people to see where to find the content they need. We've moved the hero heading text to the right, adding a gradient of dark blue to that section of the image to improve the colour contrast and make it much easier to read, whilst retaining that impactful image. And we've changed the heading from all uppercase to sentence case without losing any of the impact of the statement. Now let's look at the middle section of the example homepage, where we have a heading and some featured content that links through to other pages on the website. The light blue text in the heading doesn't have enough of a contrast against the white background, making it hard to read. The text lines are also really long, which makes it very difficult for legibility. And the read more links beneath the images are very generic and exactly the same for both, even though they are linking off to different pages. This isn't just a problem for screen reader users. Generic links affect sighted people too, as they have to read a lot more of the surrounding content to understand what the links are for. This can be particularly frustrating for people that are trying to find information quickly. The improvements here are subtle, but they make a big difference. We've added a darker colour for the heading and made all of the text and links easier to read. We've shortened the line length so that this is easier to scan when reading on the screen. And we've amended the link text so that it's clearly describing the purpose of each link. And lastly, we have an example of a video. Again, we have the uppercase text to the heading, the text lines are full width, and there's no indication that the video has captions or a transcript. As you can see, it's really small changes, but they can have a huge impact on the accessibility of your site. Here we have changed the heading to sentence case to make it easier to read. We've shortened the line length for legibility, and we've added captions to the video and included a link to download the transcript as well. So here's a quick reminder of what the homepage looked like before. And here's how it looks now with those changes applied. Hopefully this quick example has shown you that making changes to improve the accessibility of your website doesn't mean you need to completely redesign your website. With just a few changes, you can make your site more usable for so many more people. We've shared a lot of different tools and websites with you during this presentation, and we can share these with you by email after the session. We'd also be happy to help you navigate them if you want some further guidance on how they all work. There are a lot of different ways we can help you improve accessibility on your website. Our Guide to Accessible Content is a handy reference guide covering many of the things we've discussed today, including alt text, descriptive links, and heading order. So if you want more details on these points, dip in at any time, it's free to use. If you aren't sure about the accessibility on your website, our accessibility review is a great place to start. We take a single page from your site and show you where there are issues and guidance on how to fix them. If you want to make a plan and start iterative improvements, this is a great starting point. And if you would prefer an agency to make the changes, we offer maintenance, or if you want to start from scratch, a full redesign. It's been a real pleasure to present this to you today, and we're here to help you with any accessibility queries or assistance you might need. You can visit the accessibility page on our website for more details, studio24.net/accessibility, or you can send us an email at hello@studio24.net.